Chapter 4. Because he had lugged the dead drunk Ꭲ⎪ home, Ꭲ⎪ felt that he had gone insane. He was very clear that he shouldn't show any kindness to Ꭲ⎪ at all, otherwise, this child would only fall deeper and deeper in love. However, when he saw her drooping melon-shaped head, Ꭲ⎪ wouldn't feel at ease if he just dumped her at a hotel. And she was only a girl, and she was even a pretty good girl. Ꭲ⎪ put Ꭲ⎪ on the bed. Right when he was about to leave, a hand grabbed a hold of the front of his clothes. Ꭲ⎪ used all of her strength to pull Ꭲ⎪ onto the bed. Ꭲ⎪ frowned and coldly said, "Let go. Uncle Yan." Ꭲ⎪ half narrowed her eyes, her expression as lazy as that of a cat, but the strength in her hand didn't decrease in the slightest. "You look like a feast to my eyes." Her voice was hoarse, bringing with it a sexiness that wasn't present in real life. Ꭲ⎪ was an average guy. When he saw Ꭲ⎪ acting like this, his stomach heated up. Ꭲ⎪ forcefully supported herself as she lifted herself, and pouted her lips, imprinting her lips on his lips. Ꭲ⎪ could have avoided it, but he let Ꭲ⎪ wantonly lick all over his lips. When he furrowed his brows, his forehead was filled with struggle and conflict, but from beginning to end he did do anything that made sense to him. "I like you, Uncle Yan." This remark woke up Ꭲ⎪, and he crudely pushed Ꭲ⎪ aside before he closed the door and left without another word. Morning. After Ꭲ⎪ awoke, she suddenly realized she wasn't even in her room. With a big shock, she hurriedly lifted the blankets and touched her clothes, finding that her body was intact. Only then did she sigh in relief. She clutched at her hair, completely forgetting how she had come here. After she put on a pair of slippers, she walked towards the door. It just so happened that Ꭲ⎪ had just finished showering, and he only wore a towel around his waist as he walked out of the ensuite bathroom. He was so enticing, damn it. Ꭲ⎪'s body shook and she immediately leaned on the door frame for support. Having something so hardcore thrust at her in the bright and early morning, Ꭲ⎪ really couldn't stand it. Only after she pinched herself did she force herself to calm down. With a trembling voice, she said, "Uncle Yan, seeing you so bright and early is such a coincidence." Ꭲ⎪ slightly raised his brows, as he indifferently made a sound of agreement. Following this, he said, "First clean up your massive nosebleed and then come talk to me." Ꭲ⎪ wiped her nose, finding her hand was all red. With a sound of shock, she immediately hurried into the bathroom. A wisp of a smile flashed through Ꭲ⎪'s apathetic eyes. But then, memories of that shallow kiss from last night that had almost caused him to lose control flashed through his mind, and the smile in Ꭲ⎪'s eyes slowly faded. Ꭲ⎪ wondered what she had done last night to make Ꭲ⎪ bring her to his home. But every time she was about to ask, she quickly cowered after seeing Ꭲ⎪'s cold face. Ꭲ⎪ regarded the matter of her overnight stay at Ꭲ⎪'s house as a chance event and threw it in the back of her mind. Afterwards, Ꭲ⎪ returned to work and Ꭲ⎪ acted in his usual way towards her. The only thing that had changed was that Ꭲ⎪ sent over the tea. Once in a while he would drink a couple of sips of tea. Ꭲ⎪ didn't feel that their interactions now were anything bad. Ꭲ⎪ wouldn't accept her, but he hadn't hardened his heart and kicked her away either. Ꭲ⎪ had wrapped both herself and all of her youthful, frivolous dreams tightly around Ꭲ⎪. She thought, in the future, if her heart that was wrapped tightly around him died, at least she would have no more regrets in her heart. The company was going out on a holiday. Ꭲ⎪ didn't think that she would bump into Ꭲ⎪'s ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend. They seemed very happy. Ꭲ⎪ secretly gauged Ꭲ⎪'s expression, but she saw that he looked so calm, to the point of seeming indifferent, as they walked towards them. As Ꭲ⎪ and Ꭲ⎪ passed the couple, that girl unexpectedly grabbed onto Ꭲ⎪'s hand. The corners of Ꭲ⎪'s lips tensed, and his brows and eyes became increasingly cold. Ꭲ⎪. That girl laughed. "What a coincidence. Let me introduce someone to you. This is my fiancé." Ꭲ⎪ saw that Ꭲ⎪'s two hands had formed into fists. She suddenly remembered Ꭲ⎪'s unhappy and lonely appearance on that day, and her heart became filled with indignance. She took Gu Yan's hand and snatched it away from that girl, as she tightly held it in her hand. Like a warrior, she stood in front of Gu Yan and blocked him from her, as she smiled. "Hello, this is my fiancé." The girl glanced at Qishi and coldly laughed. "Gu Yan, it turns out you only amount to this." Gu Yan furrowed his brows, but in the end, he looked at that girl. He was someone with fastidiousness when it came to his feelings, but when he did put his feelings into someone, he wouldn't pollute their relationship with any ambiguousness. Now that this girl spoke something like this, she was undoubtedly rejecting all of Gu Yan's love for her in the past, and how much affection he had put into their relationship to maintain it. A slap suddenly sounded crisply in the air, totally unexpectedly. Qishi was so angry, her lips were almost trembling. She dragged Gu Yan away and walked off. "Even if this type of woman uses 10 oxen to drag you back, don't you stop for her." Everyone stared blankly at Qisai's sudden rage. Gu Yan did follow Qishi docilely, as they left the bar. When they got outside, the nighttime breeze was cool. Qisai's head suddenly sobered, and she immediately let go of Gu Yan's hand. She timidly looked up at him, like a little child who had done something wrong, as she helplessly fidgeted in front of him. Qisai's love towards Gu Yan was half adoration and half reverence. Every time she shamelessly wound around him, she didn't dare do anything that would shake the heavens with thunder. This time, she hit his ex-girlfriend, and she even dragged him out. Inside, Qishi felt, this type of conduct was a great offense. She feared that Gu Yan would get mad and blame everything on her. Who would have known that the two of them would stand in the cold night breeze for a while before Gu Yan slowly asked, "Why did you get mad?" With some pitifulness and uncomfortableness, Qishi said, "Uncle Yan, I was feeling wronged for you." Because she liked him and because she felt so connected to him, she knew how uncomfortable he felt, and she could feel wronged for him. Gu Yan saw the way she dropped her head as if to acknowledge her mistakes, and he began to feel a tickle in his heart. He couldn't help but want to touch her head. When he realized what he was thinking about, Gu Yan felt scared. After that shallow kiss on that night, his feelings for Qishi were becoming increasingly unclear to him. She was younger than him by 10 years. Gu Yan thought, her liking was only something that had stemmed from her younger years, so it couldn't be considered real. The day would come when she grew up and found that this world still held many other interesting things in it, and then she would regret her frivolousness and stubbornness. Right now, she was only infatuated temporarily. This didn't mean she loved him, or that she was going to get married to him. At the end of the day, Gu Yan was already 30 years old, so he didn't feel like accompanying a little girl's slow maturity. He immediately stood firmly in his position. "Don't do senseless things like this anymore." When she heard this, the stars in Qisai's eyes immediately darkened significantly. Gu Yan hardened his heart and said, "Don't waste more time on me. I'm not worth it." Qishi stubbornly said, "It's worth it, Uncle Yan. The only reason why you're saying this is because you don't know how many thoughts I have spent on you." Gu Yan was practically a drug addict to Qishi. Since the day she had first become addicted, she could no longer turn back. She dropped her head and looked at her toes, as she weakly begged, "Just try liking me just this once, won't you?" No. End of chapter 4.